Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2020. I'm Atlas, joined by Chobra once again as we looked over the beautiful Seoul Station there with that lovely time-lapse video. Fantastic stuff. Reminds me of home a little bit, Chobra, because we have Flinders Street Station in Melbourne, and it looks very similar to Seoul Station. It's actually pretty cool.
Really? I've actually never been to Australia. Definitely one of the regions that I want to visit, especially because there's also so much good esports out there as well. And it's kind of funny given how many different events I've been to, and yet Australia was always the one kind of I had to skip because of overlaps with other events. So hopefully one day.
Yeah, and there's a few events that happen. Like I know ESL ran a few over in Australia. I remember Overwatch was out there a little bit, things like that. And I know a lot of the guys in esports over in Australia that are kicking some ass at the moment. So maybe there's going to be an opportunity in the future. I, of course, always love heading back home. Hopefully, when work does coincide, allows for a little bit of, being able to not feel guilty by taking just a long holiday over in Australia. Last time I went, it was on fire, so hopefully next time it's not going to be as... Let's get into this matchup. Hanwha Life versus Afreeca Freecs, both of these teams on losing streaks, and let's see who's going to be able to figure it out. Hanwha Life in relegation zone and dropped 4 in a row. Certainly not great, as Afreeca couldn't find any victories at all in round 2. It's now time to figure things out.
Yeah, it's a little odd, right? Afreeca Freecs was definitely a team that I think a lot of people had some good hopes for. Maybe not obviously like a top 1, 2 team, but a team that could potentially challenge top ranking teams. But coming into round 2, still on that losing streak. Of course, this does mean that one of these teams will succeed in breaking that streak, and it really comes down to, I think, who's going to find stability. I mean, both of these have had some roster, not trouble, but they haven't really made up their minds concerning their rosters yet.
Yeah, and the last point's an interesting one. QV versus Keen is 12-13. A large amount of those victories were when QV was on Gen G or KSV or Samsung Galaxy. He was there for a very long time over all of the iterations of that particular team, and able to pick up some of the victories, but Keen certainly proving himself to be a stronger top laner just as far as 1v1 caliber is concerned. And we'll see how the rest of the map is actually going to be able to deal with him on Hanwha's side, because I think a lot of how Hanwha need to play is around QV being a great team fighting top laner, but not necessarily the greatest laning top laner.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes for a lot of Hanwha right now, right? They don't seem to have anyone that really stands out in a laning position, and in a region where there's so many standout laners, as we're looking at kind of the streaks they've had so far. This is the one that has to break the streak for one of these teams.
Yeah, exactly. And Afreeca's most recent victory was against Dragon X, of all teams. So absolutely crazy that they have fallen this far. Of course, it hasn't been the easiest road for Afreeca, up against KT, T1, Damwon, and Sandbox, all teams that have recently been on the rise. Maybe not necessarily T1 after their match against Damwon, but Damwon certainly have been smash and face in their recent matches. Hanwha Life, similarly rough, apart from looking at the APK and Sandbox matches, I guess, where they probably should have been able to perform a little bit better. But up until the last match, APK certainly did look like a stronger team, and now is going to be the true test for both of these guys to see where the power levels actually lie. Their next matches, I mean, Hanwha Life have Griffin, but this is Griffin coming off a win, and then it's not looking like they're going to win anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, Hanwha has taken some games off, right, of the stronger teams. Obviously, they took that game off of T1. If we look at they have some decent stats. I mean, you look at the kills per minute for the whole team, they're not that far off. I mean, obviously, Afreeca Freecs chasing closely as well. So they're fighting a decent amount and clearly coming out on top of those fights, but they just don't seem to be able to really close it out. Overall, of course, the KDA does not look good. So what does that mean? Maybe they're picking too many fights they're not supposed to. That could lead to that kind of conclusion as we look at the roster, and it looks like this time no changes from the last time we've seen it.
Yeah, although we did see some experimentation a few matches ago with Lava in the mid lane and Zenit on the bottom side of the map. We've gone back to the Hanwha Life that we know and love from round 1, and that's with Tempt in the mid lane and Vista with Lehens beside him on the bottom side of the map. So let's see whether this is going to be the winning formula here for Hanwha. and whether or not this particular roster is going to be able to take them down, as Fly has been switched out yet again. All In makes his way back, and I think we all understand why that's happening. Fly has been targeted by the other teams and hasn't really been up to the caliber of the mid lane that we have in the LCK at the moment. And I actually think that it's a little bit rough for Fly, because some of our mid laners are just so damn good here in the LCK. We have the likes of BDD, Chovy, Faker, so many that are just performing very, very well. Showmaker also back into some form. As we're going to have a look at one of these mid laners as our key player, as Tamta makes his way back onto the roster and looks to continue his performance, trying to bring it up though, because KDA 10th in the league, damage per minute also very low. His CS per minute is the number that, you know, is the most gratifying, but it's not really enough to make these stats look good.
Yeah, so clearly not, you know, just doing okay in lane, right, in terms of individual mechanic, able to keep up in that CS. But aside from that, I mean, of course, you also have to take into account that Hanwha's been losing, but at the same time, I feel like they've been losing as a team. So no one's really been, you know, for instance, being held behind or trying to step up to the plate. And that's been a little rough. I mean, while on the other side, we do have Dread coming in that jungle for this game one. And he's got quite some aggressive rankings here in the stats.
Yeah, exactly. His counter jungle percentage being the first in the league is going to be definitely a breath of fresh air after our last match with Tarzan, who had the lowest. And we'll see whether Dread's going to continue to play as aggressively as he has been. Of course, has been sharing a lot of time with Spirit, but it certainly shows exactly why Afreeca do bring him in, and that is to play hard and fast in the early game. So as we get into the draft, we'll see whether Dread is going to be able to continue on that footing, or whether things are going to be mitigated by Hanwha Life in some way. It's not going to be by the Elise, as that one's banned away first up here as we get into the draft.
Yeah, we even saw it on that profile sheet. Of course, 3 wins so far for that Elise. Dread very comfortable there. The Yuumi ban against Lehen seems to be just complete standard, regardless of how the rest of the draft has been going on as well.
Oh, absolutely. He was definitely the best. Yuumi actually suffered his first loss on the champion this year since his move back to Hanwha Life Esports. The previous iteration of Griffin didn't lose with Tarzan on the Trundle or Lehen's on the Yuumi, and it's only taken this year for things to change as far as those stat lines are concerned. The Aphelios, of course, has to be banned away as per usual, and that's going to give a little bit more breathing room here to Afreeca as they move into their final ban. The Jace taken away from Keen, and there's going to be a lot left on the table here, Chobro.
Yeah, it almost feels like Han was targeting for that Ornn, right? Just given what we've seen of those matchups so far against the Sylas, and the Jace is coming through from some of these stronger top laners that are able to get the solo kills. So maybe QV trying to rest easy on a team fight top lane. We'll see if they pick that Ornn up. Set also still open, and Kalista as well, and Taric.
Yep, Kalista going to be picked up immediately here. We'll see whether Afreeca do decide to take away the Taric, as Set is left available. I'd be really interested to see whether Afreeca do lock away both Set and Ornn. They can utilize both of them, put Set in maybe a support position or something like that. But they don't have a Senna. I'd love to see Senna Set on the bottom side. I feel like that would be really, really strong. I don't know whether we've seen it just yet, as, you know, we see Beryl jumping on things like the Maokai instead, and Set does spend a lot of time on the ban list, as the Varus, which slipped through, is going to be picked up here by Mystic, and we know that Mystic absolutely loves anything with a bow and arrow, so it makes a lot of sense, as there's the QV Gnar locked in the first round.
All right, again, we've seen the Gnar come out as a bit more of a safer pick that can really boost that team fight potential. So I think I'm okay with that. Relatively safe as well in that lane, so something that QV should be able to get away from Kian if Kian starts jumping in, because Kian has been popping off. I know this was mentioned by Valdez as well in his solo queue games, both on his main account and his second account as well. So just going at it, and we'll see if he's able to bring that aggression again, especially against a comparatively weaker top laner.
Yeah. But it's an okay matchup, the Gnar into the set. We've seen this picked a few times to mixed results, to be perfectly honest. But this is massive comfort for QV. He is one of our better Gnar players, sort of historically, has jumped into any sort of gauntlet situation, played Nah, and destroyed everyone, as now Afreeca are looking to ban away LeBlanc counters. The Kassadin certainly has been seeing a whole lot more favor in recent days, and it's had, you know, when Afreeca were playing it, the Kassadin looked so good, but when everybody else was playing it, it was looking pretty fantastic. So look to see whether the Kassadin is going to continue on his uptick, as Dread getting his early game junglers target banned away from him, as you could expect.
Yeah, I mean, it went all the way through. Afreeca Freecs did not prioritize securing that in any way, and so I think Hanwha's comfortable shutting down that pacing a little bit. That should be able to slow down the pressure Dread's putting on, which is going to help, you know, all across, especially in the solo lanes as well. And Lissandra, like you mentioned, some of these counters that you might see in that mid lane being banned away. There's still a couple. Akali being banned out by Hanwha on the other side.
Interesting. This is expecting Afreeca to potentially flex that set into the bottom lane, right, as Akali does deal with the Nah relatively well. But we will see where Afreeca do decide to go. 10 seconds till they lock away. Most likely a jungler here.
Yeah,
we saw Haru, in fact, use the set in the jungle, but the Trundle's still available, so you may as well pick it.
Okay, I was wondering if it was going to be the Jarvan. We've seen, you know, slowly falling out of favor, which I think is probably the right way to go, but it's been such a priority in terms of just a safe jungler to pick up. But it's going to be the Trundle, who's been rising back up, and then a potential Zoe.
Or Hanwha Life could actually lock away Rumble Jarvan right here if they'd like to. Would give them a lot of mid-game power, but they decide not to. It's going to be the Zoe there for Tempt, up against the LeBlanc, and of course Rumble does have a more difficult time against the LeBlanc in lane, as there's Haru's Gragas. We have a lot of magic damage here on Hanwha's side, but I guess, you know, Cuvée going to be doing a fair bit of physical alongside Vista, so I don't mind it, as at least the mid-jungle duo going to be demanding a lot of magic resist. There's 8 seconds to go, and this would be the very classic Mystic bottom lane in Varus Braum. We're going back to comfort here for Afreeca.
There you go. I'm a little... I mean, there's a lot of power on the side of Hanwha. I'm just a little confused because there's so much they have to do to get in, right? All of their initiation requires going in, even including Callista and Taric as a combo. But with that much magic damage, unless they can get a stable lead so that the Gnar pretty much doesn't get bursted down when he jumps in, it's going to be a little difficult to keep up a fight. So if the Zoe gets, you know, doesn't get a lead early on, which I think, you know, really just comes down to the skill here between the LeBlanc and the Zoe, it's going to be a little tough for Hanwha to look for better fights later on, whereas Afreeca Freecs can either wait for the opponent to come in with the Trundle and the Braum, or they can, of course, get a nice flank initiation from the set played by Kian as well.
Yeah, the thing I'm looking at for this Afreeca comp is just so much comfort for all of their players. So as far as getting yourself back on track after a losing streak, I see this as being almost the perfect way to do it. With Set in the hands of Keen, we know what he can do in team fights. We know that his teleport flanks are fantastic. Bit of an upgrade to teleport on this patch as well, so look to see whether Keen can affect things late effectively. All in as well, coming back on his LeBlanc. We'll see how he's going to go there as Mystic and Jelly on Ultra Comfort in the Varus Braum. We know that this is like ultimate Mystic comfort, to be perfectly honest, as we actually saw Double S in last time around, I believe, when Lava was playing as well. So good to see Mystic back, and we'll see whether he's used his time off effectively in order to recharge and get back up to his full power level, as here we are onto the Rift for that game number one. Tempt with a very pretty Zoe skin as he swims to lane.
There we go. And Jelly just riding down on that Poro Slay. Hanwha is going to have to make a lot of plays early, I think. And they have the potential to, right? They got the Gragas, who can get some nice, powerful ganks in. Obviously, the Zoe can try to open up some fights as well. But if they're not able to get the early lead and really push down towards that mid game, again, you know, as the game goes longer, Afreeca Freecs is just so tanky with that front line, and Varus and LeBlanc can be fairly safe, especially against the composition of Hanwha. You know, there's no one who can get a guaranteed stun onto that Varus. They're going to have a tough time deciding which fights to take, at which point, you know, Afreeca Freecs can either choose to fight or kind of maneuver macro around the map.
Yeah, we'll see how they manage to get towards situations like that. I think you're right. Mid-game, is going to look very good for Hanwha with their explosive casks, as well as Tempt being able to get around and be frustrating. As Keen going for a little bit of a late invade onto Cuvée here, who will find him, gets himself a face breaker, as Keen's got a long way to walk in order to get to this minion wave, but does win himself a trade. Not too bad.
Yeah, just getting sight and that ward down as well, so they have information on where Haru is. Of course, you want to keep an eye on that Gragas. Maybe potentially give Dread some movement, but Dread's going to start on the top side as well, so it looks like they'll just cycle through.
Yeah, you can see Keen getting back-to-back face breakers by the looks of things onto Cuvée, and that's why his health bar is so incredibly low. Both of them taking the fleet footwork. As we check out all-in stats here, he won a game on the Syndra and then followed it up with a loss on the Zoe. But certainly shows that he does favor these casters in the mid lane. When he first started playing, it was a lot of Pantheon, but has certainly fallen back to being more of our traditional caster support player. Caster mid laner. As Keen, I feel like his face break is off cooldown.
Yep.
He just loves to use it as often as he possibly can.
I mean, it's such a good, especially in a melee versus kind of short, mid-range in the top lane. It's just such a good harass tool for someone like a Set who also has that regen and can get the shield, of course, once you've leveled up your skills. There's another one, even despite the Mega Gnar, just confident in the damage he can put out.
Well, Dread's going to come in yet again, all in, looking to connect the chains. Doesn't get the second proc, but will land the first one, as Tempt doesn't have to use his flash. Having a look at some of those stats, it does certainly show that Keen has been 1v9 during the second round robin. He has been putting down some pretty fantastic numbers, to be honest. This game might be different, as Keen is going to get body slammed and going to take a lot of damage, but he's got a full haymaker here, gets the giant shield, and there's oh no! Oh, Haru just stuck inside the pillar. Absolutely not what you want, but Keen not going to be able to kill him, and they will look for a reset as Dread's looking to get this wrap around. I think they have an idea that the Gragas is waiting in that brush, but it's going to be a blue steal because Haru's not going to make it back, and he now doesn't have his flash.
Wow, that's, I mean, Keen, again, just really knowing how to play that top lane, recognizing how long he can survive until Dread shows up, and what an amazing pillar by Dread. We've seen a couple of those already today, and I mean, Haru invested so much into that, right? Like you said, he had to use his flash to get out, he skipped his blue buff in order to get this kind of surprise gank in top lane, and they don't even take the flash away from Keen.
Yeah, Keen actually playing this lane really, really nicely. It feels like it's actually a counter matchup for the Set. As I know that we've been pretty vocal here on the LCK broadcast that the Gnar isn't necessarily the best counter matchup to opt in for, but you understand why Cuvée picks it. It's because he does like the champion so much. And so we'll see whether he can actually get some work done here, as both of our top laners are without their potions, and Keen has a slight CS advantage as the dust is settling. The wave's pushing in here, though, for Cuvée, and that's going to mean that Keen should be able to only extend that gold lead. It's a pretty good chain that lands there from All In, but it's going to be basically a war of the mana bars, as All In's going to drink his one of his corrupting potion charges. Tempt doesn't have any left.
Yep, so All In seemingly just doing just fine in that mid lane, and Afreeca Freecs have consistently been very aggressive with their warding early on, and I think more than anything, just ready to keep track of Haru, make sure he doesn't get any easy ganks, and obviously if he does fail in doing so, Dread can go in for some counter jungling again. We've seen that stat. Dread loves going into the enemy jungle, so being able to be a little mobile, keep Haru at bay, delay that power spike in mid-game, and Afreeca Freecs should have a pretty easy win if they can last the first 15-20 minutes.
Yeah. I have a feeling that you are probably pretty correct there, as already they are ahead by about 300 gold, and All In just hasn't actually been affected too much here in this mid lane. Does have teleport available, Tempt not with that luxury, and that's going to be why you're seeing about a 10 CS advantage, as All In is able to pull out ahead. Minion wave going to be eaten up there by Tempt, though, as Dread going to clear out some vision and look towards the Cloud Drake that is alive and well here at the beginning of this game.
Should be an easy one. Not much vision there for Hanwha. Also just pushed in across both lanes, the mid and the bottom. And also, I mean, good teleport by All In. I like that he was teleporting onto the ward just to make sure he can pivot either towards the bottom side or the mid lane. It's a small thing, but it counts for that team morale and communication.
Absolutely. Also acts as sort of a body ward there as well, denying any sort of inroad for Hanwha Life.
Oh.
This could be dangerous, but Keen has read the moment, understands that there might be a little bit of attention given to him towards that top side.
Oh.
As Juve does dash on in. There's the ulti, but he's going to get walloped and smashed down. First blood goes over to Haru. Oh, it's not what you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Set has a great kit, is very, survivable, has the face breaker, has the haymaker with the shield, but if you're stunned and knocked around the entire time, you can't do it. So it was a lot of commitment, but good commitment from, ooh, that was very risky
Haru?
from Dread.
Yeah, I think Haru was, I don't know, checking Reddit or something at that point in time. Probably could have gone for a steal, but decided not to walk up to the minion wave and take it. Keen loses about an entire minion wave as he's making his way back topside, but still isn't going to blow the teleport. It might be a sign that he's looking for a different play around the map, trying to get the rest of his lanes ahead.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's okay, right? Again, we know that within just the 1v1, Keen should be pretty comfortable. Also, they just didn't have the vision and Dread moving bottom side, so in the case that he uses teleport and Haru maybe sticks around for another gank, Keen playing it a little safe. So teleport still there. QV also, of course, not using his. No need to on the side of Hanwha. So they're pretty even on that front. And Keen just playing it safe. No vision anywhere on the top side of the map for
Yeah, it actually might be dangerous for a follow-up gank as Dread's going to move down towards the bottom side. Good defensive dazzle as now Dread is looking for a position for the pillar. Haru there for a counter gank. As our Hail of Arrow is going to do some work there onto Vista, but decent Winter's Bite is going to land. It looks like Afreeca Freecs have stabilized for the moment. Haru's still sticking around in the area, but he's looking for his Krug camp. He won't be going for any sort of lane gank scenario.
And we see the pings in mid lane from Hanwha, so recognizing that Dread just passed through as well. So that should give them an idea to either keep away from the top side, maybe have an eye on the Herald. Let's take a look at this dive again. I mean, Keen kind of read the movement, decided he could maybe turn things around under tower or under the turret, but not able to use any of his skills after that ultimate. So just gets bursted down through chain stun and knockup.
Yeah, and QV didn't even have to use his flash or anything like that for it. So a little bit too easy here. By Hanwha. Maybe should have waited out the Mega Gnar or something like that. Certainly some hindsight to be thinking about there, but it is indeed that. As Haru looking once again towards the bottom side. See whether this gank is going to work as Fate's Call comes down. Good flash there from Mystic. Stand behind me. Onto the Varus as the Dazzle not able to get anything done. And Haru moves on out with his cask in hand. No flash utilized either as Dread in position here in the mid lane, but unable to actually find too much. And now we're going to have a bit of roam towards the bottom side as Afreeca do push out that mid lane. Dread moves on in here. And a couple of resets coming in as Hanwha might be looking towards this Rift Herald as their next movement. Some pings coming down, and I think that's exactly where they're headed.
Yeah, I think with all three members going back at the same time, the top lane minions are also pushing in quite healthily, and QV can continue putting that pressure because he knows his teammates are coming over, even if they don't have all that vision. We'll see if Afreeca Freecs, it looks like they're also going to make that switch over, and they should be able to get there in time if they want to contest, but I wonder if they're just going to try to get an advantage elsewhere, because it looks like they're just running straight down mid.
Yeah, not actually looking towards the Rift Herald just yet. No vision in this area either, as now Jelly's going to move on over. Control ward here in this brush will give away what's going on here most likely. And they're not actually going to get into position to try and challenge this one whatsoever as Mystic moves on in, gets a ward over the wall here in the Drake Pit. As Afreeca looking to try and get towards the Dragon Soul potentially as a trade for that Rift Herald, which is going down. We'll see whether they put pressure onto Keen or anything like that, as he's looking to clear out minions underneath his turret. And QV has played very well with the pressure that he gained from that early gank. And you can see, slowly but surely, Keen is falling further and further behind as All In going down extremely low, and Tempt grabs that kill. More and more sparkles into this mid lane as Hanwha Life getting a whole lot of control.
Yeah, putting down the Herald as well right after that kill. I mean, as soon as the bubble landed, you knew what was coming. The damage was ready to go to the side of Hanwha. They're going to get a couple of plates there. But all four members crowded around. so they will just have to back out as the minions came a second too late.
Yeah, not going to be able to get any extra plates or anything like that, but getting this outer turret down relatively low, certainly going to be helping out, and gave a fair bit of plate gold over also. As Jelly, Mystic, and Dread now looking to just focus on this Drake, as I believe they're aware of the Hanwha Life reset, and so going to start this one up and secure the second Drake for themselves. We'll see whether it's going to be Ocean or Mountain. Ocean Drake, always a pleasure, as Mountain Drake will be suiting both of these teams with some tanky lineups. As Haru comes on in, not going to be able to steal that one away as the teleports both coming forward. Dazzle going to find the flash onto 2 as there's the Cosmic Radiance. Good face breaker, but Keen in the front line shouldn't be able to get too much done. Good cast into the back line as well, but it's Lehens that has been focused by a Jelly to follow up, and the Zoe's getting work done. Tempt having a great day so far as All In just dashes the heck out of there. He wants nothing to do with this.
Yeah, oh man, the teleport's coming in, and then the Cosmic Radiance perfectly in time so that Keen couldn't jump in from behind. Keen was so prepared to jump onto Vista, bring him back into the fight, and continue the team fight in their favor as we see Vista getting in trouble.
Yeah, had to flash actually in order to get out of the way. Oh, brilliant body slam to deny the distortion as Cuvee is looking to get in there onto Dread. I have no idea what he was attempting to do as he was going after the wrong LeBlanc after everything was all said and done. So that was a whoopsie, but otherwise it's okay. As Tempt has picked up a teleport and is going to use it. I thought those couldn't drop anymore, but maybe they can. They can't drop just randomly, but they can if you use them in lane, which is what All In did, of course.
There you go. We're going to see the first kill on to All In here. I mean, that was just a straight CC chain with the combination of Tarek and Zoe. Hopefully get the fight here once again. So you see both top laners teleporting in. Keen teleporting earlier as well. So Afreeca Freecs had the advantage, but there's the Cosmic Radiance, and Keen just can't find a target. Gets the face breaker, but the rest of the team's already backing out. What a brilliant barrel, so that even though Keen jumps in on the heads, it takes a little bit longer to finish the fight. Everyone's taking so much damage, and the shockwave out from the barrel basically kept the Braum in range as well, so they continue to fight. And this is where we're going to see Cuvee get a little greedy and chase the wrong target at the same time.
Yeah, I think greedy is definitely the word, but also Vista using his flash is another big deal maneuver. As Cuvee saw the opportunity for a kill, and it didn't actually exist.
A little unfortunate. I think he was hoping to just burst down the Trundle and maybe get out or charge up the Mega Gnar in time. Neither thing's working out.
Oh, really nice cleanse, but Vista, remember, does not have his flash and now does not have his life, as Lehens is going to follow one up. Yeah, sometimes, you know, the pool doesn't have its lifeguard, and therefore you make a dumb decision. And yeah, the lifeguard's duty started at 14 minutes and 10 seconds, and he needed it at 14 and 7.
Right during that shift, so not able to get saved. Afreeca Freecs, I mean, they, even from that Herald earlier, that's when they positioned for the Drake. Of course, they secure that Drake for themselves. They gave up an extra kill, but they're playing around these objectives very well. And Vista, I mean, he had to play safe, but just wasn't safe enough without the flash.
Yeah, and Mystic actually very close to having his flash back up again, as he really didn't suffer too much at all and able to just get a free kill. Tempt does have the highest CS per minute so far. 10.1 is really impressive, to be perfectly honest, but All In is just behind him. And Keen certainly struggling at this stage of the game. Despite the fact that Cuvee had a little bit of a brain fade, he got it all back sorted out again in pretty quick fashion. Is now Mystic with his Blade of the Ruined King done. Jelly taking a lot of damage, but Unbreakable is, you know, somewhat unbreakable.
A little bit, just a tad bit. You know, Tempt's CS per minute, I mean, that was his, you know, kind of standout stat, and the fact that he's able to keep that up pretty much every game he plays seems like, again, it just means that Hanwha, if they're able to play around maybe that stability a little bit more, even Tempt might be able to put up some better numbers across other parts of the game as well. We see that in this game, 2-0-3, 7 stacks on his Dark Seal. And this might be a little bit of a sign on maybe Hanwha starting to find what their style needs to be.
Yeah, and Keen now continuing to get pressured, misses out on that cannon minion, unfortunately, as well, as Cuvee's continuing to have him locked down towards that top side. Both of our top laners, of course, using their teleports most recently in the last team fight. and will not have access to that one, as that paddle star was very close to chunking Mystic to a very large degree. He has himself a null magic mantle. We'll see what that turns into. It might be a wit's end on this Varus that we have been calling for, because of course there is a fair bit of magic damage, especially sort of inherent magic damage coming down from Haru, who will just be able to get a lot of AoE in these fights. Otherwise, Mystic should be able to otherwise stay safe. Yeah, some posturing. 5 seconds to the Drake.
What's End would be really interesting to see on the Varus. Always a pretty solid item for the likes of Varus. Obviously, QSS, I mean, not great against Gragas per se, but there's still so much other CC coming in from Hanwha, so that could be kind of the safety that they're going for as well.
And you're a DPS style of AD carry as well, so wanting to keep his uptime on his auto attacks as much as possible, so Cleanse and QSS should be an opportunity to do that, as we have a lot of skills missing actually on Hanwha's side, and that's going to mean a possible engage opportunity as there's the Cosmic Radiance and the Fate's Call, but Cosmic Radiance going to go completely wide. Keen in trouble, but is going to survive, gets himself to the brush, but the bubble is going to land, and All-In's going to need to do exactly that. As a good body slam comes forward, Dread trying to keep himself alive. I believe he does have the subjugate, utilized it as Mystic does take down the kill onto Cuvée, and somehow all of the Afreeca Freecs stay alive.
Yeah, All-In making the conscious decision to jump in, although it could have felt a little bit risky, still going for potentially an extra kill, to make sure that Tempt didn't get any cute ideas on trying to take down Keen from afar. So jumps into 2 members, he's still going!
Oh my god, okay, gets out to his original distortion after popping the tag.
Wow, I mean, this is such a nice change from what we've seen from Fly, who likes to play that stable, slower pace, standard caster style, and All-In able to shake things up a little bit for Afreeca Freecs, which also buys time for Mystic, of course, to really get online as a traditional AD carry.
Yeah, 2-1-1 now on the Varus as we see this fight once more. Body slam missing, felt like the go button here, and the fact that those Chains of Corruption landed onto Vista was actually huge at the beginning of this fight. It meant that the Cosmic Radiance did nothing, really. And King getting chunked early was certainly a bad news bears story. But it worked out in the end for Afreeca as they were able to pick up a few. In fact, the pillar worked well there for Dread, to be honest, because he didn't want to get displaced that far. And then Cuvée gets punished.
Yeah, All-In, dodging that barrel as well. So just constantly looking for the kills. And that's what, you have to be a little selfish as a LeBlanc, right? You have to just look for those picks. You have to, I don't know if you have to necessarily dive into the enemy's base per se every time, but that's the style you need. You need to look for those extra kills no matter what else is going on the map. And right now, All-In is embodying that, already now 3-1.
Yeah, and also has that 200 gold bounty as well on top of the kill gold that you will get for him. So showing that he is certainly a valuable member of the Afreeca Freecs side, as now Keen looking to try and close the gap onto Cuvée, but Haymaker is getting charged up here, but not off cooldown just yet as All-In pops on in and will be claiming this kill for himself. Chains are going to miss as Cuvée is on a merry jaunt through this alcove, but eventually the Sigil will find him, and Keen now down a flash, but certainly feeling a little bit better as far as his matchup is concerned.
Yeah, Cuvée got just absolutely baited. Tried to chase through with his own flash as well. All-In comes in time. Of course, didn't need to use his flash, as LeBlanc can jump through with those distortions. And I think All-In was actually trying to give the kill over to Keen to get him back into the game a little bit, but Haymaker not reaching just enough, so eventually All-In chases through, picks up another kill for his scoreboard, now a 400 gold bounty in the mid laner for Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, 4-1-1, really great scoreline so far, and has 9 stacks on his Dark Seal. We might see another Mejai's mid laner. Of course, Chovy talking about his Mejai's decision yesterday. Very happy about having that extra movement speed in hand, as Mystic did exactly what we were talking about, headed towards the double cleanse option with the QSS as well as the cleanse summoner spell. So it's going to be hard to CC this guy in this game. And we'll have, of course, the QSS flash to get out of any sort of casks that are going to be a problem for him. So this will really be helping him against the Gragas engage and those opportunities. And we know that he is one of the Varuses that is very good at making sure that he can get that particular mechanical play working out for him. So we'll have to see whether Afreeca can at least capitalize on it a little bit more as this game goes on. Currently behind, but only by a little bit, and not even 1,000 gold thus far.
Yeah, and they're, of course, already at Soul Point, waiting for 2 minutes on that Mountain Drake to come up, potentially picking up the Mountain Soul, which that alone will allow Keen to be a little bit more of himself in those team fights, a little bit more aggressive, kind of able to withstand maybe even the Cosmic Radiance timing. And I'm really happy to see that QSS early as that second item. It really just shuts down the game plan for Hanwha, because their biggest goal was to kind of lock down that Varus. I mean, he's the only one they really want to target, as they don't have any point-and-click CC, so LeBlanc is more of a situational pick, and otherwise they should be jumping onto the Varus, but now with, like you said, double cleanse, and then that front line and the Braum, who do they really jump onto unless they find that LeBlanc going for a flank maybe a little too far out?
It might be a game of play around Vista and try and just play front to back, utilizing your CC and all that, more as a peel or disengage option in these team fights. Certainly is an option that you can utilize as Hanwha. You can see 2-1 and 2 now for Vista. This Callista is actually getting to a decent position. Vista Callista. I didn't realize that the names rhyme, so maybe that's yet again going to play into Hanwha's synergy. 40 seconds now on the Mountain Drake, and this is what Soul Point gives you. You can move towards Baron, and then they have to try and deny that Dragon Soul. Is all in, looking to clear out some vision here, but the rest of Hanwha moving over. He has Distortion. He has double Distortion, so not going to have any issues here as far as the LeBlanc falling down as Keen split pushing towards the top side, and he has his teleport available here as well. We're going to ignore that he missed the cannon minion, but he is getting himself back as far as the CS numbers are concerned, and building towards his Blade of the Ruined King, which works very well against the flat health that the Na does have.
Yeah, this is, like you said, it's giving Afreeca Freecs so much time. Kian actually teleports early, so they are ready for this fight. It looks like they just want to corral them around that dragon.
Yeah, not actually going to find a team fight just yet, as Keen is just... no, he just teleported in. Looking for a flanking play here off to the side. He's out of vision right now, as Dread's position is known, but they're waiting for the Narbar at this point in time. Boulder flies in, but isn't able to register. Now Cube is going to back away.
Yeah, Haru does find Keen. Keen wasn't able to find the right angle. They had been getting poked around a little too much. Jelly already down to half health. Dread's been able to withstand it a little bit. So Hanwha's going to take this as a cue to start the Drake, which I don't know about that. They don't have a choice, though. It is Soul Point.
Yep, and Trouble Bubble is going to land, and that's going to mean a very dead Trundle. Great Cosmic Radiance will deny any sort of follow-up, but now that it's worn off, it might be an opportunity, as there's the showstopper into the backline. Keen finds the Facebreaker as well, as All In has to get out of there. Mystic finds the first kill. The Braum going to be the second option, as now Mystic has to deal with Lahens. Cube's jumped on top of him, but he just doesn't have the DPS at this stage, and All In cannot fight this one. They have to give up the Dragon Soul option at this point.
That was just such a messy fight coming out from Afreeca Freecs. They just couldn't make up their minds if they were going to contest this. I mean, quite frankly, if things didn't work out, it doesn't feel good. But since they were the ones at Soul Point, if you already decided you're taking too much damage, I think you could have backed out. But Dread goes in and just gets instantly stopped by the bubble and gets bursted down before even the explosive cast comes out. And you see Keen waiting for the Cosmic Radiance to stop, but the rest of Afreeca Freecs is so separated, Mystic can't come in for that extra damage. Temps just runs away with that extra move speed. Cube is able to actually keep All In out of the entire fight, and he comes back as Mega Gnar, as they waited too long after the previous Narbar had depleted. So Afreeca Freecs, they had the right idea, and then they messed it up, which, okay, mistakes can happen. Then I think they could have just afforded to back out. It doesn't feel good. You're behind in gold, but giving that one Drake wasn't going to end the game for you. But now that you've given up extra kills and that Drake, the gold lead is starting to widen a little bit.
Yeah, it really is. 2,000 is that current score line. I believe Mystic didn't have his Rage Blade available when that happened as well.
No.
Stand Behind Me is utilized, and the Paddle Star not going to connect here. As Gargoyle's Stone Plate is close for Dread, but he doesn't quite have it just yet. His stopwatch is still available. We'll see whether Afreeca are going to be able to get a turnaround team fight, because right now it feels like Zoe is really having his way with this map. Tempt is on a bit of a tear with how he's playing this one out. 5-0-4 right now on the Zoe.
Yep, and we do have the max stacks on the seal on both mid laners. They are going to find Temps.
Yeah, as Chains of Corruption do go wide, Trouble Bubble also not going to find the mark. But if you're talking about a cooldown trade, you'd probably say that the Zoe wins that one.
I would say absolutely. And the Zoe's been wrecking havoc, and this is what you need to see. We've talked about it several times, even just today, with the Zoe and with that scoreline, pretty comfortable. I do like even both mid laners going for that Banshees early. Everyone very cognizant of the crowd control coming in from the enemy team. So this is going to allow the team fights to play out more like they're supposed to. But, I mean, I just don't know. Keen with that Blade of the Ruined King, it is now finished just now, but he hasn't really been able to find an angle when he can stick to someone and cause that havoc in the back line. He was locked behind for too long in that top lane, and despite trying to buy some time in those split pushes, we still see Cuvée just dominating ahead 30 CS in that lane-to-lane comparison, and still offering, of course, much more in the team fights as well.
Yeah, it really feels like this Mega Nut has been working out, and there's a reason. I mean, Cuvée has his own skin that he's wearing right now, I believe, and there's a reason why he has that, because he's damn good on this champion. So there's a lot of people who are asking the question as to why the Nut, but now why the team fight is going to be what we're asking. Is Lahen's getting taken down relatively low. All in finds the backline. Facebreaker onto Cuvée. Cosmic Radiance is backed away from. Great Chains of Corruption will land there, but Cuvée gets in with a huge ultimate. The dunk comes down, but has the damage been done is my question. Double kill comes in for Vista as the bottom lane has already been evacuated from this game for now, and Keen in a whole host of trouble. This inner turret will be falling down, and Hanwha should be able to break the base here at 27 minutes.
Yeah, what an initiate from Cuvée, just waiting for the perfect time. And again, I mean, Keen definitely not finding an angle. Even All-In was looking for a target, but really the only target I think you're going to burst down instantly at this point is actually no one. You have the double cleanse on the Zoe and the Kalista, or one each rather. Of course, you have a lot of protection coming in from their teammates as well. So All-In teleporting behind actually just separated him from the rest of his team. But that fight, the MVP goes to Cuvée. You watch him here. He's always in the front line. Tempt, of course, being more of that menace, is able to get out of there with the Banshee's Veil. Actually dodges the Braum ultimate, so good timing. Mystic gets bursted down, and then he chooses to come back in. He decides the crowd control is out, I can fight, didn't account for the flash Mega Gnar ult onto 3 people, and that's the death of Mystic and Jelly soon afterwards.
Yeah, really nice stuff. I liked how quickly the QSS came in for Mystic, but unfortunately, he didn't have enough in order to get himself to safety. Is now Mountain Drake spawning in 20 seconds time, and we've got more posturing back in the river ram, as we like to call it. Here in the LCK, as Keen has found his way towards the backside of Hanwha Life, and his flash is available. He's going to walk on a ward here, though, as now Cuvée is going to be able to walk in. Now Haru is going to get his get the showstopper on top of him, as now Dread has the subjugate. Good haymaker there from Keen, but he has to flash to get over that extra terrain. Haru is going to survive for the moment as Cuvée gets in with a huge ult yet again. Back-to-back team fights, and Afreeca are running to the hills. Tempt is not going to be able to find the bubble, but he does find the kill, and All-Ins ran out of teammates.
I mean, Afreeca Freecs just walked right into a group for Cuvée to jump onto, and he just... Oh man, this is just so unfortunate, as it looks like the game's about to end. Afreeca Freecs didn't even have a chance to show what they had in store.
Yep, these teamfights were all about Hanwha Life, and honestly, this game was all about Cuvée. My God, what a performance. We're not in the gauntlet yet, Cuvée. You don't need to get activated, but it doesn't matter. He still is. Amazing stuff, and you know what? It's really unfortunate because that's like, what, 5-0 and 6, or sorry, 6-0 and 9 or something like that for Tempt. Cuvé's going to get this player of the game every 100%. Day of the week.
I mean, Tempt was doing very well as a Zoe, but what opened up the win for Hanwha was by far Cuvé's plays.
Yeah, just back-to-back incredible ultimates onto 3 people, then 4 people. Just straight up winning it before it even really started. As we saw Keen, he managed to get into the backline, he managed to land a showstopper, but then what did they have? They didn't have enough, and Cuvée just says, all right, hold my beer, I'll show you how to do it. And he certainly did. That was exquisite to watch. And also, being able to keep Keen down for the entirety of this game was extremely impressive, and something that honestly not many top laners are able to do here in the LCK, and just shows that when Cuvé's on, he's really on.
Yes, yeah. Cuvée at his best is something to be feared. And oh, we get the nice cinematic close-up. Just look at that. 4 members all pushed up against the walls. Mystic has to cleanse out of that one, but they just get bursted down and chased all the way home. Cuvée was a monster.
And he had no Nabar at the start of this one too.
Yeah, he just waits for it. You hear him calling, we're going to go back in, we're going to go back in. And now they just know they're cleaning up.
Just extraordinary. Incredible play there by Cuvée. As we are going to go to a short break, guys. When we get back, it will be this game number 2. And I don't know what Afreeca have to change. Is it going to be Spirit? Is he going to come in and try and save this team? Does Fly come back? Because I actually thought that All-In's early game wasn't too bad, right? Like, what is going to be the answer from the Afreeca Freecs? Do they ban Nah? That would be the most insane thing.
I think you kind of have to, though, at this point, right? It's just opened up so much as we look at the overall match highlights here for this game. I think, you know, not that Gnar is that much of a high priority, but when Cuvée seems to be this on point, and they also seem so intent on keeping Keen down, maybe you just get rid of that wild card, keep a couple extra priority picks open. In terms of the subs coming in from Afreeca Freecs, I agree, All-In was fine in the early game, wasn't able to make much happen mid, but I think that's partly due to Keen not able to find an angle or really any location where he can be of much use. Both this fight and then the last fight we saw as a replay earlier, he goes in as the showstopper, but he gets instantly locked down. We saw the stoppage and the Zonia coming out for Haru, where he dodges the Haymaker damage, and with one person out, the LeBlanc really can't find a good angle.
Yeah. And I want to shout out Lehens as well. I think his Cosmic Radiances were fantastic in this game. I think he played very, very well on this Taric, and Taric Callista is very good. As I say that, we're going to watch him get solo killed. Good night. But that's fine. It's what happens. It's been happening a lot today, actually, as far as caster curses are concerned. But look, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. As yeah, Cosmic Radiance just denying any sort of re-engage and allowing Hanwha that breathing room to control these team fights.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the Cosmic Radiances, actually. The fact that he was using them just much earlier on, rather than looking for, you know, the most dramatic clutch moment, just making sure it shuts down any possibility of Keen turning things around with that set. Because we've seen sets just instantly demolish team fights by suddenly jumping in. But Lehens not taking any of the chances. This was where Mystic comes back in, and here comes Cuvée. This is the moment when the switch gets turned on. And that's the first ultimate where it changes everything, demolishes that mid lane in favor of Hanwha, and then they win the fight near the Drake afterwards to confirm the victory.
Yeah. Love it from Hanwha. Good to see them back in some form, but they'll have to do it again in game number 2. And if there's been an issue here for both of these teams, it's been consistency. So let's look to see whether they can clean some of that up as they move into the next match. And I don't know, man. I don't know when this Afreeca downward spiral is going to let up, because it's not looking like it's slowing down. And they need to find out very, very soon what's been going wrong and fix it.
Yeah, I mean, Tempt, of course, playing very well. Like you said, it's unfortunate that Cuvée was such a teamfight player, kind of stealing the scene away from Tempt, but he was, of course, very, very crucial to that early portion of the game. And I mean, Afreeca Freecs, I know, you know, many people were also counting on Afreeca Freecs to kind of turn things around, and come in even stronger in round 2 and contest for one of the top spots, or at least contest to get into the gauntlet and then make the drive home. But right now, they're not looking in shape.
Not at all, but it's still early days in this series, and Hanwha do need to win another one. We'll see if they can when we get back from the break.